everyone, it's Stephanie here with a video for My Favorite Things. In today's video, I'm going to be recreating a card that was made by design team member Francine using new products from the April 2017 release. So to start off, we're going to create our background panel, and that's kind of the star of the show on this card. We are using the new diagonal design background stamp, which is a really bold design. It has almost looks like a maze. It has a lot of diagonal lines, and the lines are really thick in this design. So when you stamp it and put it onto a card panel, it really takes center stage on a card. So what we're going to do here is we're going to heat emboss the design with white embossing powder. So the first thing we need to do is completely ink up the stamp with Versamark ink, which I did. I really made sure to coat that stamp really well so I know I have a lot of ink on there. And then I just laid my cardstock panel directly onto the stamp and then put a scratch piece of paper over top, and then just used my hands to kind of really press down and put even pressure so that I really made sure to transfer all of that ink to the panel. And then once I had all of that ink transferred, I just went ahead and coated the entire panel with white embossing powder. And now I'm using my heat tool to fully heat all of this up. And it's just melting all of that embossing powder. And it's going to leave us with this great design. And right now it's just white on white. But now we're going to take some distress inks and add a bunch of color to this background. And what's going to happen is we're going to end up with this beautiful color on the background area where it's just cardstock. And all of the areas where the bold lines are that have the heat embossing are going to completely resist the ink. And it's just going to let the pattern really stand out against all of the different colors. For the background panel, we're keeping all of the colors pretty similar. We're using greens and aquas and blues, and this is just so it really ties in nicely together. So I just kind of used the different inks in various areas and kind of spread it around so I didn't have one solid color in all one spot. And then once I have that done, I can set that aside. I have a card base already ready to go. And this panel here is cut slightly smaller, so it is cut at 4 inches by 5.25 inches. And now I can go ahead and pull in my 2 stamped images. So what I did is I took an owl from the new Tweet Wishes stamp set, and I colored him in and die cut him. And then I also took a little birthday hat from the Berry Special Birthday. This is a previously released set. And I just used a little birthday hat and colored it in red and die cut that as well. And for the owl, I stayed with the same colors that the background's in, just as Francine did on her card, so that everything will blend nicely together when I put it all together. Now on Francine's card, she created a little twine area for the little owl to sit on, and she added a couple of eyelets to her panel. Now I do have eyelets. I have some silver ones, and I'm pretty sure that's all I have. I used to use them a lot back in the day, but it's not something I use too often anymore. So I decided to do this portion without eyelets, just in case you don't have them. I don't know if it's a common supply that a lot of crafters still keep on hand. So I just wanted to show a variation of this with just the holes punched and not having eyelets in it. That way you have both options. You have Francine's that uses the eyelets, and then you have this one here that has no eyelets but just has the twine right through the holes. So I just used some Scotch tape to adhere that to the back of the panel and trimmed off the excess twine. And now I have this great little twine area that the owl is going to be able to sit on. I really love the realistic look that this adds to the card, and it just adds a little bit more detail and dimension, so I love that. So I want to put the birthday hat on the owl before we adhere him to the card, just because we are going to adhere him on with foam adhesive. So I'm just using a tiny bit of liquid glue at the very bottom of the birthday hat, and I'm just going to adhere it directly onto that owl. And then I'm going to take some little tiny foam squares and add them all over the back of my owl so that I can kind of pop him up off the card and make him sit there on that piece of twine. And then once I have him added on there, I can go ahead and adhere the entire panel to my card base. So I'm just going to flip this over and add some tape runner all over the back of this, and then I'm just going to adhere it to a top folding white card base. This is an A2 size card when it's complete, so it's going to measure 4.25 by 5.5 inches in total. And then once I'm done that, I can move on to the sentiment. So I'm going to be using the Hoot Hoot Hooray sentiment that comes in the stamp set. And the sentiment originally comes on all one line, but I did use my scissors and trimmed it into 2 pieces so that I could stamp each part of the sentiment separately, one on top of the other. So I'm going to do the same as Francine did, and I'm going to create a speech bubble around my sentiment stamp. So I stamped the Hoot Hoot at the top left corner of my little cardstock piece here, and then I stamped Hooray directly underneath of that. And now I'm just going to take my scissors and I'm going to kind of freehand a speech bubble. I'm just going to take my time and just try and cut as straight as I can. And if it's not completely perfect, that's fine. It's just a cute little speech bubble to house your sentiment and kind of make it look like the owl saying it. So once I had it all cut out, I just used some more foam adhesive, the same ones that I used on the owl, to keep everything the same height. And I just completely covered the back of this beach bubble with the foam squares, and now I'm just adhering it to the cardstock panel and kind of positioning it underneath of the owl there, so it's all kind of together in one little cluster on the card. And then that is going to complete the card today. So thank you so much to Francine for creating a card that we could recreate in today's video. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.